Shut up and sit down.
I'm just going to get right into it.
Yeah, let's go for it.
Emma Fyffe?
Yeah.
How you doing?
I'm great. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for being here. Thank you for showing up and just like doing the podcast. I wasn't expecting you to show up.
Oh, no, man. I'm happy to do other people's podcasts.
Really?
Yeah.
You seem like you're really busy with like, everything.
I am really, really busy. But that being said, it's like I've been doing the Sailor Moon podcast that I produce independently since 2014.
Uh-huh.
So, we're in our third year now. And I remember like fairly early on, we started getting some guests that are like voice actors that do voices in the new Viz dub of the show.
Oh, wow.
And I remember being like really grateful that they wanted to come work on my stuff. So I try to like pay it forward. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Thank you for doing this.
Yeah, you're welcome.
And I listened to you with Ken. And
yes. Yeah. And you're like, what else can I ask her?
Yeah, I'm like, hey, fuck. Like, he covered everything about you. And like, what else can I go over? And you're just talking about like how you were, like how he has a little recorder and how everything's set up.
Yep.
How do you think that went? Like with him?
With him? Great. Yeah. I mean, I have to thank Ken Knapsack for quite a lot, actually.
Why is that?
Well, because I mean, the way that I got involved in Collider and Schmoes was, I mean, it was thanks mostly to him. I mean, certainly it was thanks to Roxy a little bit as well, but Ken was the one that like really was pushing for me to come in and do some stuff. So yeah.
Was he the one like that hit you up about it, or was Christian and Mark?
It was Christian who hit me up, but he was the one who really recommended me to Christian, and then Christian in turn was like, "Oh, John Campea, you should see this girl Emma. She's great." But yeah, so it all kind of started with Ken.
Was it just that one Schmo show? He's like, "Hey, come in, try this."
Literally, okay. So this is literally what happened. So Christian added me on Twitter, and I was like, "Oh yeah, Christian, I know who that is." So I followed him back, and then within maybe like an hour, he sent me a message that was like, "Hey, Ken Knapsack says really great things about you. We'd really love to get together with you sometime and talk about getting you involved in Schmoes and Collider." And then that weekend was LA Comic-Con, formerly Kamikaze.
Oh, yeah.
And so I met Christian during Kamikaze. Like, we actually, like, chatted a little bit face-to-face.
You hadn't met him before that?
I think we'd probably crossed paths back when Schmoes used to be at the Afterbuzz studios.
Yeah.
But I didn't know him well, certainly. I knew he was, and so, we chatted a little bit at LA Comic-Con, and we'd already set up that I was going to come in that following Friday, and Christian and I were going to try to get, like, coffee or lunch, and then I was going to stick around for the Schmoedown. But what happened instead was that Monday, Ken texted me and was like, "Hey, Christian and Mark want to know if you want to co-host on Thursday." That was when we were still doing the live show on Thursdays for Schmoes. And I was like, sure.
Just like right away, they're just like, "Hey, come on, do this."
Yeah, they just threw me in there.
Had you met Mark?
Yeah, I'd met Mark Ellis before.
Okay.
And then literally the next day, I chatted with Christian after the show.
Mm-hmm.
He was like, "You're great. We want to put you in the regular host rotation, and we'll eventually, I'm gonna like introduce you to Campea, and we'll start getting you involved in some stuff at Collider." So the next day, I was like, "Hey, do you still want me to come in for Schmoedown?" And he was like, "Yeah, if you want to." And then Ken texts me and is like, "Hey, did Christian talk to you about doing post-match interviews today?" So
you were already working for the post-match?
Oh, yeah. No, literally the first Schmoedown I ever went to, I did some post-match interviews. I think there were like 3 matches that day, and Makuga did 1, and I did 2.
You didn't have to go and like check it out, feel it out before?
No,
you're just like, okay, let's go.
Threw me in there.
And do you remember the match for that one?
I think that one of the first ones I did was probably Bibiani and Andraco's first matchup, which was crazy. Yeah. So that was good because they were both new competitors. And then I think that the same day, Wolves of Steel played, I cannot remember who they were, but I'm pretty sure it was a Wolves of Steel match.
So it's 2 great matches.
Yeah,
right
it
away.
was.
Yeah.
It was, yeah, exactly. Fortunately, I had started to get sort of caught up on the Schmoedown at that point. And so I already knew I knew Riley already because I'd done the Schmoes Know show.
Oh, yeah.
The night before. And I knew who Clark Wolf was, of course. But yeah, so I like watched, fortunately I had watched like one of their matches before I went in.
Oh,
and
so you watched the night before?
Yeah, it was just, it was literally a coincidence that it happened to be one of their matches. And
so you weren't like a fan of the show, or were you just like watching it?
I was certainly familiar with it, but I wasn't necessarily a huge fan of the show, but then once I got thrown in there, I like went back and watched everything, and I was like, this is actually legitimately really fun to watch. So
like when you do the after interviews, like how do you approach those?
I mean, I just pay attention during the match, honestly.
Oh, you have to be there the whole match?
Oh, yeah, I'm there the whole match.
Oh, wow.
Because I need to know what happened. And so especially because I was thrown in with Bibiani and Andreyko, neither of whom had competed before, it was like I just immediately had these new competitors, and so there wasn't a lot of backstory yet for me to draw on, but I could go, oh my God, like neither of you got a single question wrong. I think somebody went to multiple choice one time. It was crazy.
Oh, so like all three of you guys were pretty new. So like,
so it ended up working out really well.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
So yeah, I mean, for me, it's like, I pay attention to the match. And then of course, now that I've been there for a while, like I'm super involved in the storylines. Like there's a very famous sort of rivalry between myself and the outlaw John Roca.
And you're enjoying that?
I am. Yeah. Roca and I have been friends for a long time, since before I got involved in anything at Schmoes Collider. Yeah, I think when because Roca and I have been friends since 2015, I think. Maybe 2014. I don't know.
Anyway, shows with him or something?
Well, he the way I met Roca was I was actually doing a podcast at Afterbuzz for Transformers Robots in Disguise, which is the current Transformers animated series that airs on Cartoon Network. And Roca played a sort of small recurring villain role on that.
He was the voice of that?
Yeah, he was the voice of Springload, one of the villains.
I was wondering if he was the voice of something, because like when I hear him speak on the microphone, he has like a great voice.
He does, yeah. So he's Springload in Robots in Disguise, as you can imagine, is a frog-based Decepticon.
Why?
Well, because springy, like jumping.
Spring.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Is it like a villain too? Like, is he playing a villain?
He's like literally like a hallucinating frog. Like it's crazy. So Roca and I met at Comic-Con that year during the Transformers panel.
Oh, okay.
Because the people at Hasbro were like so cool, and they were really cool with us, and so we had guests on the show all the time, and so we came in and they're like, oh, you guys can sit right in the front, and then Roca was at that panel as well, and so we met, and then it was like, oh, Roca's actually coming on the show next week, because that's when his character's going to be on.
Wow.
Yeah, it was cool.
So how many like podcasts do you have going right now?
Right now, well, very very crazy wrench thrown in my schedule. We just found out that May 1st through 5th, we are doing a trial run of TV Talk, doing TV Talk every single day.
Are you currently like a co-host on it, or are you kind of recurring?
I'm kind of a
you fill in the fourth chair?
Yeah, I mean, right now it's kind of like Sinead, Josh, and David are sort of the three main people, and then the fourth person rotates. It's very frequently me. But sometimes like Jason Inman will get in there, or Perry, or John Roca.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, so during that trial run, that 1st through 5th, I'm going to be on every day.
Oh, you are going to be on it. So what are you guys going to cover? You're going to cover like every TV show from Monday through Friday?
Basically the idea is that Monday will be a huge show, because it'll be everything that was Friday through Sunday in terms of TV.
So does Game of Thrones is
Game
later.
of Thrones is a Sunday, but it hasn't started yet.
It's normally in April though, right?
Yeah,
like, it got pushed
but
back
it's not starting till July this year.
Are you guys going to cover Silicon Valley?
I don't know. We've literally been emailing, like trying to figure out what shows we're going to cover. Because the thing is, with it being a daily format, like now we really can talk a little more about more shows.
Oh yeah, you have time to like let it breathe.
Yeah. So I mean, it's going to be a tight show. It's going to be 30, 40 minutes. But
it's not going to be an hour?
No, okay. Yeah. Because I mean, right now, as I say, it is a trial run. And, we're recording at 8 a.m, which is actually not bad. It's kind of like a morning radio TV update. I actually don't think 8 a.m. is a terrible slot. But, you know, we don't have that much time because they have to start filming other things at Collider for the rest of the day.
Oh, yeah, because like a movie talks right away at 10 o'clock.
Yep. So, we've got fast turnover. So I'm thinking Monday will definitely be more on the 45-minute side of things.
So do you have to watch TV every day?
Yeah.
And then report it the next day?
Morning.
Yeah.
Yep.
But are you excited about that?
I am. Yeah. I'm actually really excited about it. And I think it'll force me to keep up with shows rather than what I'm doing a lot of the time right now, which is like binging everything, being like, oh God, I have to watch all these things for Monday. But no, I think it's going to work out really well.
You're going to space everything out in between now.
Yeah. So it'll be nice instead of like doing our superhero rundown, for example, it'll be like, you know, on Tuesdays we cover Supergirl and on Thursdays we cover Arrow because Arrow's on Wednesday night, Supergirl's on Monday night, that kind of thing.
That makes more sense because you want to talk about the show the day after, like with your buddies at work.
I really think that it should. I mean, we get fairly good numbers for TV Talk already, and the response from fans has been like they're all so excited about the first through fifth week. So if it does well, then you know we'd be going daily for the foreseeable future, which would be really cool.
It will be daily.
Yeah, that's what we're looking at. So,
but are you excited to wake up at like 7 a.m?
You know, I'm gonna be fine.
You just said earlier you weren't a morning person.
I'm not really a morning person, but you know, I can get up and have my coffee on air, and you know,
and just like play the part.
Yeah, I can make it work.
Yeah. Why don't you like waking up in the morning? What time do you go to bed at night?
If I were left to my own devices, I would probably go to bed sometime between midnight and 1.
Okay, that's not so bad.
It's not so bad.
Yeah.
I mean, there was a time in my life, and occasionally now, if I don't have to wake up early the next day, I will stay up until 2, just like, I don't know, reading or farting around on the internet. I sometimes I'm like, I don't even know why I'm still awake. I'm not doing anything.
There's a point where you're like on the internet, you're like, I have nothing to look up anymore. Yeah,
exactly. I'm like, what am I even doing?
Yeah. What time was that when you were just farting around on the internet at 2 a.m? Like, what time in your life?
Mostly, I would say, when I was, when I graduated from college, I toured with a children's theater company for about 2.5 years. And a lot of the time, especially during the school year, we were having our rehearsals like after school was over. So I wasn't going into work until 2 or 3 in the afternoon.
Okay.
So a lot of the time during that period of my life, I definitely was staying up too late on the internet, especially because, you know, we were in these towns where
you were traveling around?
Yeah. Oh. So I didn't know. It's not like I knew anybody except my tour partner.
But would you go out with your tour partner?
Oh yeah, we would go out.
But there's not much to do in small towns, like a dive bar here and there.
Well, if you're in Wisconsin, there's a great chance that there's going to be more bars in the small town that you're in than there are grocery stores. Or sometimes there will be 9 bars and no grocery store.
Wow,
that definitely happened. Independence, Wisconsin. That was a great time. No, it was really cool. We were staying in this really, really nice lady's house. She was a flight attendant. And she had one of those like Lincoln log looking houses.
Really? Like a full size Lincoln
like a fancy log cabin. And she was only there like one night. And it was unfortunate because like she was so cool. And you know, not all of the people you stayed with on the road were as cool.
Like what? Like assholes or just
kind
of just like squares?
Yeah, just kind of square.
Really?
But she was really fun. And like we arrived and like she had made us cookies and coffee and like she'd already gone off to, because she was a flight attendant, so she was like based out of Minneapolis. So she'd already like gone off. So before she left, she like made us cookies and had coffee waiting for us and was like, help yourselves to whatever. Like there's beer in the fridge. Like she was really cool.
Well, that's pretty cool. Yeah. How long did you do that for?
2.5 years.
And then what'd you do after that?
I moved to Los Angeles.
Yeah. What was the point where you're like, okay, I got to move to LA?
You know, it's funny. And I think I maybe talked about this on the Knapsack Files a little bit as well. I really loved working for Missoula Children's Theater, especially when I first started. And I still liked it all the way through to the end. But, you know, if within my first maybe year and a half of being on the road, a job had come up at the home office in Missoula, Montana, I would have absolutely applied for it. And I probably would have gotten it.
You would have stayed in Montana?
Yeah, I would have.
You ever think what your life would be like in Montana right now?
I mean, it would be very, very different. I don't know how much I would have actually liked it. But, you know, the community theater in Missoula is at the home base at Missoula Children's Theater, and they put so much money into their productions. And most of the people who work at home office are former tour actors like I was.
Oh, okay.
So they're all really talented. So you have this great like talent pool, and they put on these really big budget musicals. And, there was this part of me that was like, I could work in the home office and like do the community theater shows and live in Missoula. Missoula's a really cool town, by the way.
Yeah.
It's more like Burlington, Vermont than like the rest of Montana. Okay, so
Burlington,
Vermont is like,
that.
Burlington, Vermont is like, it's like the exemplary like hippie town USA. And Missoula is definitely very crunchy. But
you're from Vermont though, right?
No, Connecticut.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, New England. But
okay.
yeah.
So how was that growing up, and how's that different from LA?
I mean, my cousin Erin, it's so funny. She's in school in Boston right now, and I was home over the summer. We were all on vacation in Maine, Kennebunkport, Maine, where I've been vacationing literally since I was 3 months old. And my mom has been vacationing there with her family since she was like 2. Wow. So it's definitely been a long-standing family tradition. But my cousin Erin had just been out in LA. Her boyfriend at the time was doing an internship, sort of like a work study out in Santa Barbara.
Oh, okay.
So she was like, well, I don't need to stay in Connecticut over the summer. I'm just going to go to Santa Barbara. And she got like a nannying job or something. Oh, okay. And we were talking when we were both, with our families in Maine. And she was like, she's like, I feel like California is a lot less judgy than the East Coast.
Oh, I could see that, more liberal.
It's not even liberal, because like Connecticut is a fairly liberal state. I mean, where I grew up, certainly my family was extremely liberal. But, my parents have had a lot of very conservative friends, and they just did not talk politics with them. But I think what Erin meant by that was she felt like people were it's a lot less like preppy than the East Coast, like
more accepting of who you are.
Yeah, more accepting of kind of like different life choices.
Okay.
For example, for me growing up in the East Coast, it was like, okay, you, in terms of say like college, since it's an area of the world that like education is literally the most important thing on the planet, because you're like in the world of Ivy League schools. Ivy League, yeah. You're like in the Ivy League neighborhood basically. So it was never a question of, are you going to go to college? It was like, where are you going to go to college? Whereas now, and for me growing up, it was like, anybody who's a worthwhile human being goes to college.
Yeah.
But now out here in LA, I've made friends with so many people who are so smart and successful who didn't go to college. So I have a completely different view.
Really?
Yeah.
But don't you think like when you come out to LA, like you're a lot smarter than a lot of the people out here?
I mean, I do think that. But at the same time, it's like, but I've also met a lot of really smart, interesting people who just took a slightly more unconventional path.
Mm-hmm. So I remember, I'm trying to remember if I heard this right, but did you have maids growing up?
No, my grandmother did. Yeah, my grandmother who grew up in South Portland.
Okay.
And she did not know didn't realize how wealthy they were. But yeah, she, Virginia Woodbury, her father, John Woodbury, ran Portland Steel during World War II.
Whoa.
So that was a big money maker. Yeah. So she was very wealthy growing up, which again, like she didn't really know, because it's one of those things when you live in it, you don't really recognize it. Unless you see somebody else without one. And you're like, why don't you have one? But like they grew up in that like, Southern Maine society, I guess.
So your grandparents rich, but what about your parents? Like, did they go into that business?
No. My parents are both programmers.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they're both computer programmers.
Smart people.
Very smart people. Yeah.
Did they want you to do that?
No.
No? They didn't say, hey, follow the family tradition and be this. No?
Not at all. Though my brother did. No, my parents are amazing.
Yeah.
They're really like, especially the more sort of, because in our neighborhood, it was a very abnormal situation wherein the vast majority, and we were friends with like all of our neighbors. We grew up in like a little town in Connecticut, good old Bethel, Connecticut, population 18,000.
Everyone knew everybody.
Everybody knew everybody. Yeah. And in our neighborhood, like there were so many kids who were my age and my brother's age.
Oh, that's cool.
So we were kind of all friends with each other, and we all just sort of ran amok, and nobody ever locked their doors or we all just walked into each other's houses all the time. And everybody was on a first name basis with all of the parents. Like I did not call a single parent in my neighborhood like Mrs. Egan. It was like, no, it's Peg, or like
Really?
Mrs. Weber, it's Seal. Yeah.
Did you call your parents by their first names?
No, I did not call my parents by their first names.
I thought it was like that like
no,
liberal.
no. Though Carrie, one of my neighbors, did start calling her mom Peg.
Yeah.
And I was like, I thought that was really weird and dumb.
Oh, that's the line.
Yeah, I was like, no, that's the line you don't cross. Your mom is still your mom. But anyway, so again, it's like I grew up in this very like everybody knew everybody kind of situation. And again, it was this very abnormal scenario wherein like for the most part, like everyone was still married to their original spouses, like in our neighborhood.
Is that weird?
It's like that's a statistical anomaly because like so many marriages end in divorce.
But in a small town like that, I can see like in a big city.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't know too many kids growing up, like in the grand scheme of things, that like had divorced parents.
Okay.
So, but like the older I've gotten and the more sort of I've interacted with other people in the world, it's like not only have I encountered more situations of people whose parents are divorced, but also people whose parents were like not necessarily super supportive of
really?
them. Mm-hmm.
And that's
like,
strange to you.
It was so strange to me. I remember one of my good friends in college, my friend Katie, had parents that like they basically were like, I don't know if I'm getting this story 100% correct, but this was the way that I interpreted it from the outside, was that like, they would not allow her to have a cell phone because she was not like majoring in business or politics. She was majoring in musical theater.
Really?
Yeah, they were so opposed to it.
Wow.
And my parents were very much of the mindset of like, you're not us. Like you should do what you want to do and what makes you happy.
Really? They were like that.
Yeah.
And then you chose musical theater.
I did. Yeah. And they were like, you know what? You are a smart and resourceful individual. Mm-hmm. You're gonna find a job.
Yeah. Especially
because they were both programmers and they started working for what was U.S. Surgical at the time and has gone through a whole bunch of hands since then, one of which was Tyco Healthcare, which had a big embezzlement lawsuit during the time that they worked for them.
Nice.
But now is Medtronic, which I think is based out of Minneapolis. Anyway,
does that affect them at all? Like, are they in like danger of losing their jobs or anything?
No, not at all. They're both retired now. You know, both of them came into that field at a time when there wasn't a major in college for computer science.
Yeah.
You know, my mom was like a general sort of business major and my dad had a fair amount of math. But yeah, I mean, neither of them got anything beyond a bachelor's degree.
Really?
And so they were kind of like, yeah, I mean, go to school, get a degree, but like, we don't care what it's in. Like, you should pursue what you want to pursue.
You never thought about doing like something in math or science related?
Good Lord, no.
You're not good in math or science?
No, terrible at math and science.
Really?
Yeah.
But why though? It's so easy.
Nope, that's not my area of expertise. I was great at history.
Oh, okay.
And English.
Yeah.
Music. Art.
Yeah, you have these references. Like you read so much, and you have like when you reference like Cyrano de Bergerac in the Schmoe, I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
I only know that from the Steve Martin movie, the Roxanne.
Yeah, Roxanne. Yeah.
But like you know all these references, so you just like grew up reading all these.
I
things?
did. Yeah. I mean, I was a big theater nerd from a really early age. One of my favorite movies growing up was the Franco Zeffirelli version of Romeo and Juliet.
I don't know what
is. I mean, it's like flower power 60s Romeo and Juliet. It's amazing.
Okay.
Young Michael York is in it as Tybalt. And
Michael York, that sounds so familiar.
He's Basil Exposition in the Austin Powers films.
Okay, I know him from Logan's Run.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So I discovered that film when I was about 10.
Your parents showed you that?
Oh, yeah. My mom let me watch it.
Yeah.
And so I started reading Shakespeare from a really young age.
You just taught yourself Shakespeare
at like
10 years old?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. I wanted to, because I was introduced to it in a medium where I was like seeing it on screen. And so I was able to kind of get a little bit of a grasp on the language just from seeing it performed.
Then you wanted to read it and study it.
Okay, I wanted to read and study.
Did you have anybody else to do
Shakespeare
that with?
When I was really young? I mean, my parents were definitely into that. And then my neighbor, Melissa, was one of my best friends when I was a little kid. And she was 3 years older than me. So she also like started getting into Shakespeare around the time that I did. So
okay,
yeah.
So you weren't like the kind of like shy
and then
loser kid.
And then when I was a freshman in high school, we had to read Romeo and Juliet. And I was like, oh, please. I already know this like the back of my hand.
You don't even have to look at the book. You're just like,
and then
save
what
your
else?
copy.
And then I feel like we read something else that year too, probably a comedy, maybe Midsummer, which I also like already loved because of the film with like Michelle Pfeiffer and Kevin Kline and everybody. Like it's so good. So anyway, I was I was a big theater nerd, and I discovered like Andrew Lloyd Webber when I was really young, like 7, I want to say. And so I started getting really into like Joseph and Jesus Christ Superstar and Cats and Phantom of the Opera.
Like, I don't understand. Like, this is so weird that you just like learned all this at like 10
Well, I mean, this is the thing is that like for all that my parents are, they're both more like math, science-y kind of people. Like my dad grew up in the UK where like all of this was like part of your regular curriculum. I mean, he started studying Shakespeare at a really young age. So, they both are like big nerds. Like they both love theater too and sci-fi and fantasy. And so it was sort of a natural progression wherein what was a hobby and an interest for them became a career path for me.
Okay. You think you're a genius?
I'm intellectually gifted.
Have you ever had like your IQ tested?
Yes.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Do you know what it is?
It's like 136 or something, which is pretty good.
Is genius over 130?
No, you're just considered gifted over 130.
So you're always the gifted child.
I am, yes. Yeah, my brother and I both are, but he's like totally math science smart. Yeah.
Is it just you two?
Yeah, it's just two of us.
But there wasn't like a rivalry with like smarts or anything?
No,
like, you got to be on the test.
No, not at all. My brother was not as hard a worker as I was.
Really? You're not afraid to admit that?
No, he would admit it too.
Yeah.
He didn't work nearly as hard as I did. He was really smart, but the problem is I think in his like math and science classes, a lot of the time, the problem was with our public school system was there was a very big gap between like the advanced class and the sort of regular
like
class.
Average.
Yeah. There was nothing in between that. And that was what I needed in math and science. And that was what he needed in like English, history, and languages.
Okay. So you would be like kind of held back with like the math.
A little bit, yeah. And then I would be bored.
Oh,
so
really?
I wouldn't. So the thing is, for me being bored, it was like, okay, I put in enough effort to still get A's. For him, it was like him being bored. He just straight up didn't pay attention.
Oh, really?
So he didn't do well. But he's super smart. It was funny though that we were just very smart in different ways.
Yeah. But it's hard to say, but like you had friends, right? Like,
I
don't want to be like judgy and be like,
no, not at all. Oh yeah. I mean, the thing is for me, it's like I started doing like community theater productions outside of school at a fairly young age. And so I actually, weirdly enough, had a lot of friends who were adults because they were, I was, 15, 16 doing shows, doing Gilbert and Sullivan, which, kids my age weren't necessarily interested in doing. But, I was friends with the sort of 25, 28-year-olds that were in those casts. And it was really interesting because I kind of observed like adult sort of socializing behaviors from a younger age. And then I started doing shows at the Sherman Playhouse in Sherman, Connecticut. And that was when I kind of started making friends who I really liked that were more in my own age group. It was like I had a lot of friends kind of from the time I was little to the time I was maybe in like middle school. And in middle school was when it was like I was still friends with the girls that I like. For example, I stayed good friends with a girl who had been my across the street neighbor before we moved because, we had a lot of the same classes together. She was also really, really smart. She was salvatorian of my high school class. And I like her a lot, but I remember feeling like my high school friends, it was like I was friends with them because it was convenient, not because I necessarily really connected with them.
Like you didn't enjoy being around them?
Yeah,
it was
not
just
really.
like, we grew up together.
I was the kind of person who like, growing up, like I had a lot of voices in my head. I was a very creative kid. So I was very good at keeping myself entertained.
Do you like being alone?
I do, yeah.
Yeah,
I like being alone a lot.
Like you don't think that's like a weird thing?
No, I don't.
Because I just go back to the line in One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest where it's like, is it crazy to want to be alone?
Yeah,
like, I don't think it is.
Like it was crazy to want to be alone. No, and especially as an adult now. I mean, obviously, like I'm a very outgoing person. I have lots of friends, and I love spending time with my friends. But I need a certain amount of alone time to like recharge.
Yeah,
you know?
at the end of the day, you're just like, okay, it's me time now.
Yeah.
So what do you do during your me time, like your alone time?
I read a lot of manga and like fan fiction and doujinshi for anime series and video games that I like.
So you're like still kind of working because
kind of, yeah. I mean, a little bit. But it's like the weird stuff that I enjoy. I also watch a lot of K-dramas.
I don't know what that is.
It's Korean dramas. Yep, and watch videos of K-pop bands that I like being interviewed. Yep.
You're so strange.
I am.
So
I'm very
awesome.
strange.
But can you just like turn off your brain and just like relax? Is there anything that you have like a guilty pleasure for? Like something that would be kind of be considered dumb, or just like
I don't know. It's really hard for me to just turn off my brain and relax. And I know I've said this on other podcasts, but one of the reasons that like I like watching anime and Korean dramas so much is because I have to read the subtitles, and that helps me pay attention.
Oh, okay.
So I get a lot more invested that way than I would watching anything that is in my own language.
Something like you can have on in the background.
Because as soon as I can understand the language, then I can be doing stuff on my phone and I can be multitasking, and like I don't necessarily want to do that. So like even with shows that I really want to pay attention to. So like for example, Star Wars Rebels, which I was the lead host for the Afterbuzz show for it. I have been for a number of years now.
Do you turn the subtitles on?
I
for that
do.
too?
I turn the subtitles on, so I'll pay attention.
Really?
Yep.
Do you mute it too?
No.
Okay.
I still listen.
Okay.
But no, I like to read the subtitles so that I can like really be honed in and I can get the names of like the planets and the ships and the guns. And,
that makes sense because like it has all this other lore. You have to read what it is.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
And I think that's why I like really like Star Wars, is because there is this very like rich lore and there's always like more that you can learn. So
it's this whole world of just characters.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So but do you go out and do you have friends? I'm trying to see.
I do,
like,
yeah. Oh my God.
I don't want to say like friends again,
oh my
but
God, no,
do you
absolutely.
like go out and party and do
do.
like the clubbing thing in LA?
I do not do clubbing.
No.
That is not my thing. I do not like going to the club.
What do you like to do like around LA?
I like to go to bars. I'm a big beer drinker. I love beer.
Really?
Mm-hmm. So yeah, I'll go out with friends.
Like a trivia night bar?
Not so much.
No?
Because my time, I have so little time. It's so precious that usually, like, if I'm going out with a friend, I want to be. That's part of why I don't like clubbing and stuff. Is like it's so loud. Like you can't talk to anybody. And if I'm going out with my friends, like I want to talk to them. I want to catch up. I want to like connect.
You just want to be with the person, spend time with the person. Yeah.
Exactly. So, I like the bars in my hood for the most part.
What, Burbank hood?
Burbank hood, North Hollywood hood, Toluca Lake hood. That's kind of
like hipster Silver Lake?
I like hipster Silver Lake bars. My friend Michelle and I went to this like really awesome bar in K-Town. That's just like old ladies making skewers. Oh my God, it's amazing. I love to go out for like Korean barbecue and just like have shochu and beer. Or not shochu is the Japanese equivalent. Soju is the Korean. They're the same thing. Just the Koreans call it soju. The Japanese call it shochu. And like eat lots of meat and drink beer and soju and just like have a great time.
What's your fascination with like the Korean culture?
I'm trying to pinpoint it because my friend Devin, who cuts my hair, who's a makeup artist, really, really cool girl, one of my best friends in LA. She was the one that like really got me into because I've always been into Japanese culture since I was little. I mean, I started watching Sailor Moon when it was airing in syndication in 95 when I was 9 years old. So it's been a long journey with me to be the otaku that I am today. The Korean thing is kind of recent. I loved Korea when I was there. I went to Seoul when I was on tour and just loved it. It's one of the most fascinating cities because it hasn't sustained a whole lot of damage. over the years, like in terms of wars and things like that. So it's kind of like this modern city has built up around the existing old architecture.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
So it's this really interesting juxtaposition. It's a really, really neat city. And a lot of Korean people speak English too. So it was very easy to get
Can you
around.
like understand Korean at all?
I could when I was there. When you're immersed in a culture, like you learn so fast.
Yeah, you have to.
Because you're just living it every day. I could read a fair amount of hiragana when I was in Japan, which is one of the alphabets. Like I had an app to study it, but then like I would practice reading it on the vending machines.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So I
would they have like a translation, or would it just like, okay, that's what that is?
Yeah, I mean, they had little tricks for remembering what all the different characters meant. And it's actually like a really cool, the Japanese alphabet is really neat because hiragana and katakana are both phonetic. So a symbol is a sound. It's not a letter. So if you know what the sound means, you cannot pronounce it incorrectly.
Oh.
So yeah, it's really neat. It's really, really cool.
I remember like in high school, like they had one of the Korean kids or someone say like a sound like 5 different ways and they each mean something different.
Oh, in Mandarin, that's the case.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. Mandarin's a tonal language. I was terrified to speak Mandarin when I was in China. I was like, I can't, nope.
Like
I'm
he
going to
said
say
like
something.
ka or something like 3 times and you're like, that's the same thing. He's like, no, it's not.
Yeah. No, Korean and Japanese are both more simple.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, I mean, so Korea was like I had a really great experience when I was there. And I think that it's like, some of it is, when it comes to, like, I really have gotten into K-pop lately, and I love this one band, BTS, which is Bangtan Boys. They're all like 20, by the way, so I feel like a total creep being 31 and like
if you go to one of their shows,
boys, I'm like, oh, this is a little weird.
But you can look like you're 20.
Sure, absolutely. But like there's something about their culture that's like, I love the K-dramas that I watch, and I watch mostly historical K-dramas, and the thing I love about it is that like the heroines and the heroes too are so flawed. Like the people are such a mess on these shows, and like it's so wonderful to see like these characters be really vulnerable, not only the women but the men as well. And all of the men are, for the most part, like portrayed very androgynously, and there's like this real sort of blurred line between like men and women, and I don't know, it's really fascinating. Like there's not this sort of machoism that exists in American culture.
Oh, like the role, like the gender roles?
Yeah, the gender roles are definitely like a lot more blurred. Like my roommate's watching this one right now where like the girl is the superhero. Like the girl has superpowers. Her mom had superpowers before her. And like the main guy in it is just like her kind of dumb love interest. It's great.
Completely flipped.
Yeah,
and it's enjoyable.
Yeah, it's really interesting.
As you take a sip of water.
Yeah, I don't know. I love it. And with K-pop too, I think that some of it is, so I was really upset. Go with me on this journey.
Okay.
I'm really obsessed with the musical Hamilton, which
Have you seen it?
I have not. I'm seeing it in August.
Oh, okay.
I'm so excited.
Did you have to get tickets like a year in advance?
I got them about 3 weeks ago now.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
That was when they finally, so basically for Pantages,
it's coming to LA.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, so they assigned all of the season pass holders their tickets, and then they opened it up for season pass holders to buy more tickets before they opened it to the general public. Ooh. So it hasn't even opened to the general public yet, I don't think. But my roommate has a season pass, so I was like, I need you to get me Hamilton tickets, and she's like, done. I was like, I don't care what they cost. I will splurge on that.
Yeah. So you're excited to see it?
I'm so excited to see it. But the thing that I really love about Hamilton is that it has given me an opportunity to really connect with rap music in a way that I never have. Because, rappers tend to rap about subject matters that I'm not familiar with, that don't it's not stuff I can relate to.
Uh-huh.
And
like money and bitches and hoes.
yeah,
And
like I don't relate to that. Like I respect that it is a brilliant art form. But it's never been anything that I've been into. But like I love all the rap stuff in Hamilton. And when I was doing musical improv, like I loved rapping in improv. I loved freestyle rapping.
Really? You could freestyle rap?
A little bit. Yeah. I'm very rusty, but I can throw down.
So you like the historical references?
Yeah, so it was
rap.
about history, but it was like this really interesting music and like brilliant rhyme schemes but about a subject matter that like I love, which is American history. And in Korean pop music, there's a lot of rap as well. Pretty much all of the groups are a mix of rappers and singers. And, you know, obviously I cannot understand what they're rapping about, but like even reading translations of the lyrics, it's stuff that I'm like way more, that I relate to a whole lot more.
What do they rap about?
Well, BTS is a lot more controversial than most K-pop groups because they'll rap about like unhealthy relationships and politics and like like really really interesting stuff. And it's like it combines like rapping with like really great, like very catchy musical melodies and like fucking awesome hip hop dance. They are all amazing hip hop dancers.
Really?
Yes. Like these little Korean boys are like the most sick hip hop dancers you've ever seen in your life.
Have you ever tried to learn it yourself?
I'm actually decent at hip hop.
Really?
Yeah. It has made me wish that there was a hip hop class in LA that specifically taught the dances from like EXO and BTS.
I was going to say there's probably a hip hop class, but not
but not specifically that teaches K-pop dances.
You seem like a really happy person.
I am. Yeah.
That's what I have trouble with because this podcast we come to like just bitch about everything. But like there's nothing that like bothers you or you're so like content with everything.
Yeah, I mean, I'm at a point right now where it's like I have so many good things going on in my life.
Mm-hmm.
The main thing that I would like right now is to be able to not have my day job.
Oh, okay. So you still have to go to work like 9 to 5?
Not 9 to 5. I work at a theme park. So
which theme park?
Universal.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Roka and I both work at Universal.
What do you guys do there?
Roka is a wand keeper in the Wizarding World of Harry Potter.
What does that do?
When you go to Ollivander's, he is the wand keeper that you will meet in the wand fitting experience, wherein a wand will choose a witch or a wizard.
Oh.
Yeah.
And then you?
I am a tour guide. Yeah.
Not as exciting as like a wand keeper.
No, I mean, tour guide is definitely one of those sort of like coveted jobs at Universal.
Is tour guide the tram tour?
Well, yes, but I never do the tram tour anymore because I work for VIP primarily. So I do the VIP tour and I work in the office at VIP.
Oh, so if like someone famous comes to Universal and you're like, hey, show them around.
Yeah, or if somebody, wants to pay $329 to $399 per person.
Really?
Yes.
And they spend the day with you? Mm-hmm. Really?
Yeah.
And what do you tell them like the history of Universal?
We do a 2-hour tour instead of the 45-minute tour. We're with them all day in the park. We take them to the front of the line for all the rides and shows.
You look so upset like saying
no,
that.
I mean, it is a great job and I'm so thankful for it. And they've been so flexible with me and it's all great, but I just don't want to have to do it anymore.
No. Why? What do you wish you can do? Like,
I just want to host stuff like all the time. Yeah. Yeah, I just want to get paid to be a host and do that. I'm happy to like produce the shows that I'm hosting, like I do the research for it and put together rundowns and things like that. But yeah, I want to just be a broadcaster.
Do you get paid for like the Sailor Moon and all the other Afterbuzz TV shows?
Well, no. I don't get paid for the Afterbuzz shows. No. That's a dirty secret that maybe people don't know. I don't care. Yeah, Afterbuzz is meant to be and listen, I do not hold any grudge against them whatsoever. Because it's because of the stuff that I was doing at Afterbuzz that I made the connections that I made to wind up at Collider and at Hyper RPG and stuff like that, like the places that I do actually get paid.
And it's experience where like you learn how to be in front of a camera. Yeah.
And I will not begrudge them that. I certainly got a lot of experience out of that. And also, doing the tour, like that's a lot of really good hosting experience as well.
Like performing.
Yeah, definitely.
How did you get in touch with Afterbuzz?
Some of the other tour guides were doing it.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
So Universal's the place to go to.
Yeah, it is. I mean, again, it's a great gig and I make decent money and I have health insurance and
that's what I'm like afraid to lose, like health insurance.
It's a lot of great stuff that I don't want to give up. But, you know, I'm just ready for the next step.
Yeah. What do you think the next step for you could be?
I mean, you know, it's one of those things where if any of the places that I currently host stuff was in the position to be like, we want to offer you a full-time job, like, you know, writing copy and still hosting stuff. Like at this point I would take it. Ideally, I would like to have a bunch of freelance gigs. You know, like I
wouldn't mind like going from job to job.
No, I wouldn't. I really wouldn't. As long as it was like, okay, I know that I'm going to do TV talk this day, and this day. I know I'm going to do the Schmoedown this day. I know I'm going to have shows at Hyper RPG this day, and this day. So I knew, like, so I had some reliable source of income, but then was able to be like, sure, IGN, I'll go do this cool red carpet thing for you, like Tiffany just did for Fate of the Furious. I was so envious. That's so cool.
See, my problem with freelance is like, I'm afraid that I won't have a job in a week.
Yeah. I have so many friends that are making that lifestyle work for them.
Yeah.
Which is why I feel like that's why. So I see it as possible.
Okay, yeah.
But again, it's like I would need to have like a few things a week that I knew I was doing. So I was like, had a sense of, okay, well, I know I'm going to be making at least this much money this week, but hopefully I can book some other stuff in there as well.
Okay.
So yeah.
Because I remember working on a gig and a guy's like already texting like to meet the next day, like where he's going to meet, what he's going to do. And I'm like, that's so stressful to me.
That would be too stressful for me. And that's why I don't, because I mean, at this point I have a fair number of things that I'm like, cool, I'm guaranteed to do these things every week and I know I'm going to make this much money, but like, it's not enough for me to go, I don't need to work at Universal at all anymore. And even at this point, I'm like, cool, if I get like 2 more things that I know I'm going to do every week, I'm going to reduce my availability. You know what I mean? Like, I am not the kind of person though that can just like leap of faith. I wish I could.
What do you mean leap
just
of faith?
Like quit Universal right now.
You're too scared to do that?
Yeah, I am. Yeah, I am.
What do you think will happen?
I think that I will not make enough money to live the kind of lifestyle that I want to do.
What's your kind of lifestyle?
I mean, you know, I don't really have to worry about money too much. I mean, I don't spend like crazy, but it's like, you know, if I want to go shopping and buy a new pair of sneakers, I can do that. Like I don't have to, and I don't have to like read the price on every single thing at the grocery store.
Or worry about the next paycheck coming in.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. Like right now, it's like I have a reliable amount of income coming in and I'm able to afford my townhouse in North Hollywood that I really like. That, you know, I could live somewhere cheaper, but I don't really want to.
Do you have a roommate?
I do, yeah.
Is it a boyfriend or
a girl? Just a friend of mine.
Okay.
Who I've been friends with. She and I met doing a play down in Long Beach, actually.
Really? And then you guys moved up together?
No, we both lived up here. That's how we became friends because we were carpooling.
Oh,
yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Would you want to live by yourself?
No, I actually have like a really fantastic situation with her. Like we've lived together now. This is our second place that we've lived together. And yeah, I mean, it's a great situation wherein like she is one of my best friends, but also we live together really well. And it's just one of those things where it's like, well, what's the point of living alone if like we can have this cool townhouse that's very spacious and close to a lot of cool stuff?
So there's no troubles. It's like, oh, you didn't do the dishes today.
No, not really. No, we both hung out with each other because we became really good friends during a Halloween Horror Nights one year when she was this character. And
did you work that?
I work Horror Nights basically every year.
Oh, really?
Yeah. But like Terror Tram.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and VIP used to do a product for Horror Nights that was really fun, and I loved it, but we don't do it anymore.
So what did you do for this specific moment?
That year, I was the Terror Tram supervisor. So, like, I was working every night of Horror Nights, crazy long hours. She was working every night of Horror Nights, crazy long hours. And so then, like, we would hang out on, you know, Monday or Tuesday and just, like, sit around and watch anime. And like we knew how the other one lived and we were both fairly tidy people and we both had roommates that were moving out and moving in with their boyfriends, now fiancés.
Wow.
And yeah, so we kind of had a good sense of the other's lifestyle.
You get each other and you work well together.
Yeah, and so it was one of those things where like we kind of already knew we would live well together and it worked out really great. So yeah.
Have you dated anybody in LA?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
How does that go?
Disastrously.
Why?
Yeah, I don't know if you watched my episode of the Josh McCouga show, but I have categorically awful taste in men. And I was reading an article about it. Apparently, like, it is a scientific thing that, like, we like people that don't like us.
You're going for something that you can't obtain?
Right. Well, but especially people who are super type A like I am, because, like, I'm used to working really hard for the things that I want. I work really hard for the things that I want. And so, like, I don't respond well when somebody likes me. Like, if somebody likes me, it's too easy.
If someone shows you any of attention, you're like, oh, fuck him. Like,
yeah, kind of. I'm like, oh, it's boring. It's easy.
But why?
I don't know.
But do you realize yourself doing that?
I do, but I also am kind of the mindset that, like, I'm so busy. If I don't really like somebody, I'm not going to make time for them. So, if I don't and, like, unfortunately, it's like right now in my life, if there's somebody who I think, well, maybe I could be interested in them, like, I'm like, but do you really want to make time for them? No.
Is he worth, like, the time you would have to take off from work or doing something?
Or working on something else for myself career-wise, or like using my precious free time to hang out with my friends who I don't get to see.
Oh, wow.
So,
but what if he, like, supports you and, like, helps you and supports you emotionally and does everything?
If I'm interested, then sure. But I just don't meet that many people that I find interesting.
But so because you're going for the wrong person, you said.
Yeah. And like I know that I am.
But you don't try to change that, or like have you ever taken a chance on someone where you're like, okay, I know he likes me, let me take a chance with him?
Yeah.
And how did that work out?
I knew I didn't like them, so I had a meltdown about it.
A meltdown?
Yeah.
What do you mean a meltdown?
Like, I was hanging out with this guy for a while who, like, really liked me.
How long's a while?
Like a few months.
Like boyfriend, girlfriend, or just like kind of dating?
Oh God, no. Just dating. And simultaneously, I was seeing somebody else who I really liked, who I knew was no good.
So then why would you go for the first guy? Why are you dating the first guy?
Because I liked him.
See, but you like the second guy.
Well, I thought I could maybe like the second guy.
Oh, so you had the first guy locked up.
Yeah, so the first guy was somebody that I'd been carrying on this very long flirtation with. And finally we started actually, like, seeing one another. And we were both really crazy busy, so we would see each other like once a month.
Oh, okay.
And this is the one who I knew was probably bad news. Like, I knew, like, we had a ton of mutual friends, and, like, I didn't want to ask anybody about him because I knew they would all be like, no, you should not date him.
What bad news were you thinking?
Just that he was not a good person.
Like what? Like
well, it turned out that he was, I don't know if I was the other woman per se.
Oh, you were?
But I was, like, at least borderline the other one. Like, he was definitely already seeing the girl who is his girlfriend now when he was dating me. And continued to flirt with me and sort of lead me on when that girl was already his girlfriend.
But you were he was the other man when you had a second guy? Am I getting this right?
Yeah. Well, because the only reason I started seeing the second guy was because I really liked the first guy and I didn't want to get hurt.
So you're how does that make sense? So you're, like, trying to, like, safeguard yourself and just be like, okay, I have someone else. So when this doesn't work out, I won't be. Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I learned the hard way that doesn't work for me.
It doesn't sound like it would work out.
Yeah, it didn't work out. The second guy, I just was like, I eventually, like, had a little bit of a freak out where I was like, oh, you know, like, I'm going through a lot of stuff and I really need some space. But, like, what I really should have said to him was, like, I really like somebody else. But I did not say that.
Or you were seeing somebody else.
Yeah.
So what did you say?
I just said that I was going through a lot and I needed some space.
And then what did he say?
He was very mature and he was like, yeah, that's fine. Cool.
Oh, so kind of worked out. You're saying it just, like, fell apart and you had a meltdown.
No. I cried and stuff. Like, it was really bad. But yeah, he was super cool about it. No. It was with the other guy that, like, things were like. No, I didn't have a meltdown about it. I mean, I did sort of privately, but, like, not in his presence. Like, when I realized that he did, in fact, have this girlfriend that he was not telling me about.
Oh, okay.
Like, so far as to my face, say that he was traveling, because we were all at a convention, with an assistant.
Oh, he called her his assistant. Wow.
Yeah.
And you believe that?
Not really, no.
Yeah.
And I think, like, a few days after we got back, he reached out to me and was like, hey, how's it going? Like, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, it's great. It's cool. And I don't even know how the conversation kind of continued where like he mentioned something about an assistant and he was like, yeah, but the girl I was with wasn't my assistant. And I was like, yeah, I know. But like, I don't understand why you told me she was your assistant.
Yeah. So then it just blew up, right?
Yeah.
there.
Oh yeah. I mean, I called him out on his shit. I was like, why? He's like, did I say she was my assistant? I was like, yes, I have 3 witnesses.
Oh, really? Oh, it wasn't like in text that he said it was his assistant. It was in person.
Oh no, in person to my face.
Oh, yeah.
He said that she was his assistant.
So then how do you confront that? Do you like call him or do you go see him and you're like, hey, what the fuck is up?
It was a very long text message battle that we had.
I was all texting. I was like furious.
It was texting after that. It was furious texting.
You didn't want to like go see him and be like, hey, dude.
Oh,
like,
I wanted to go see him. Don't get me wrong, but like he was a very closed off person, and there was no fucking way that was going to happen. So
why? Like you didn't know where?
I knew where he lived.
But you just like he was just like, no, I'm not home, or
he
like, trying to get away from me.
Always had an excuse.
Oh, really?
Yeah, always.
But this was the guy you liked, even though you knew like he was.
Yep. Yep. Again, terrible taste in men.
But that's what you're going for. That's your choice.
Yeah, it kind of is because if I don't know. Again, it goes back to that, like, I'm used to working hard for the things that I want. So it's like, if I want this person, then, type A logic says, if I work hard enough, I should be able to get what I want. And that's just not how it works.
I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. I'm over it, but it was just like, it was rough.
Yeah.
And I think for me, it's that like, I feel like society like places this, puts like this gold medal or something on like being in a relationship. Like that should be the goal for everybody. And how could you possibly be a happy, complete person if you're not in a relationship? But I personally like get enough fulfillment out of the friendships that I have and out of, the love that I get from my friends and my family. And I don't feel like I need to be in a relationship. And I just like feel like society is not okay with that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're fulfilled already. Yeah. Like you don't need some guy just to be like, okay, I'm with somebody.
No, not at all.
And people look down on like other people, like, why can't she hold a relationship? Or
yeah,
anything?
A little bit. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Did your parents like ask like, hey, have you met anybody yet?
No. My parents are really cool about it. They don't. They're like, no, like we get that you're focused on your career, and one of the women who worked for my dad like didn't have a relationship until she was like in her late 30s, and so my parents are like super cool about it.
Yeah.
I was visiting my family the other weekend, and I did get a little annoyed when my aunt asked me if I was seeing anybody, and I was like, no.
Yeah.
And then it's, like people at work will ask me, they're like, oh, are you seeing anybody? And I'm like, no. And they're like, why? Like, I know all the people I know, and I'm not interested in any of them.
It's just like you said, it's more work to put towards someone where like it might not even pay
where
off.
It's like, I don't, when I get to a point that like I really want to be in a relationship, sure, I'll put in the effort, but like right now, I don't care.
Yeah.
So.
And you hear about like people like Tina Fey didn't have another kid until she was like 40.
Yeah,
and,
exactly.
Like, things are getting like later and later.
Yeah, definitely. And so many of my friends that I work with at Universal, like, they didn't meet their spouses until they were 35. So like, I feel like on an LA timeline, I am doing just fine.
I think you're doing great. You're part of like a lot of things.
Yeah.
You're taking care of yourself. You're doing well. A lot of people are struggling out here. I don't think you're struggling as much as like the normal person.
No, I know that I'm not. And I think that's why I struggle with the whole like day job thing, is because like I know so many people would be so happy to have the lifestyle that I do. I am really incredibly successful, and I have a lot of momentum right now, and like I know I'm just going to continue to have success, but it's like so I always am afraid of like sounding ungrateful.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, when someone would gladly take your position.
Yeah. But everyone's problems are valid. Like, even though they seem like petty and small, like if it's important to you, it's important to you.
Like people still have issues even if they have something that someone else doesn't have.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to make you
God,
like bring
so
you.
fine.
Like, I feel so terrible
No,
about
it's
asking.
okay. Listen, I heard that I think it was Mark Ellis was like, I thought I was going to go in and it was just going to be like a nice, like chill time, but like we just got into some stuff.
With Mark, I talked about like I didn't know about stuff about his parents and like how he lost his parents too.
Yeah.
But I should have did my research with like
No, it's all good, man. It's fine.
You just laugh it off, right?
I do.
Like you are I think you're like the strongest person that just like takes care of herself and just does anything she wants.
Yeah, that is kind of my MO.
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't mean that like I don't need people and I don't need support. I do. But I'm a fighter.
Yeah.
I carry on.
And you have your cats. The cat thing.
I do. I have 2 cats.
The cat thing.
Yeah.
The cats are the worst pets.
No, they are not.
Sorry.
They're the greatest pets ever.
No, you need a dog.
No, because cats are like me. They take care of themselves.
Okay,
and
that
they are
makes sense.
happy to have your affection and attention, but they don't need it.
So okay, they are happy like when you're around.
Oh yeah, they're very happy.
Because I've seen
when I'm
cats where
around.
they're like they don't give a shit. If
Oh no,
you're
my
here.
cats love me.
Oh okay.
Oh yeah.
I saw Cody's cat where he played fetch with the cat.
Yeah, my cats play fetch.
Really?
Yeah.
But just get a dog and play fetch with the dog.
No, because if I have a dog, then I gotta like walk it and like it needs me to like take care of it. And the cats don't really need much taken care of.
That's such a great line. The cats are like me; they take care of themselves.
Yeah.
That's perfect.
Yeah, I connect with my cats spiritually.
That's so funny. I think we covered so much.
Yeah.
Do you realize you talk really fast?
I do talk really fast.
Is that like an LA thing, or did you talk like that
no,
growing up?
I've talked like that my whole life.
Really?
Yeah.
Because I think it's an LA thing. Like, okay, we got to talk here for 10 minutes, and then I'll see you later.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I almost think it's more of a New York thing.
Oh, yeah,
You know, because I grew up like an hour outside of New York City. So
Uh-huh.
I think that's more where I get it from. But
That makes
it was
sense.
probably exacerbated by living in LA.
Yeah. Which
But
is the time and everything.
Yeah, I got a lot to say.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I don't know what got you into broadcasting and like wanting to get like your voice out there.
Well, honestly, so growing up, I always knew I wanted to major in musical theater, but I really loved Changing Rooms and then Trading Spaces, which was the American version of the British show Changing Rooms. And the host of that show, Paige Davis, had a background in musical theater. So it always occurred to me that like hosting would be an option. And when I was in college, I became very aware of the fact that I was a lot more comfortable just being myself than a lot of the other like acting musical theater majors were.
Yeah, they're more comfortable playing a character.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, okay.
And not to say that I don't like playing a character, I do, but I was like, I think I'm pretty cool the way I am. It's so modest.
That's very
too.
bold of
really,
you.
Really modest.
Yeah, well, you should listen to me and look at me and everything.
Yeah, exactly. And so then when I was in LA, I started doing improv and stuff. And I remember like listening to Conan O'Brien on the Nerdist podcast, and he was talking about how like he didn't really do stand up and like he liked improv fine. It was more in line with what he wanted to do because it does involve other people. Because like I like interviewing people and connecting with people.
He was a writer for like The Simpsons
Yeah,
and
exactly.
went to Harvard.
Yeah. And then the hosting thing it was something that he kind of discovered a little later.
Yeah,
but,
that is a weird
but
like situation for him because he wasn't an improv, he wasn't a performer, and then they're like, okay, take the Late Show.
Yeah. So
or Late Night. Yeah.
Yeah. So then it was like, okay, cool. And so then it sort of occurred to me that like I kind of wanted to go more down the talk show host path of things because again, it was like I was really comfortable just being myself and I was comfortable interacting with other people. And then I started taking some hosting classes and stuff. And I realized that what I wanted to do was, again, more along the lines of like a talk show host than like a reading off teleprompter host, though I'm certainly capable of doing that.
You want to read off a teleprompter?
No. I like talk show, kind of like chatting with people.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Or like being on a panel for things like I am in sort of my broadcaster life. And yeah, it was honestly my Sailor Moon podcast that got me like really into it because what sort of happened was Sailor Moon itself, it was originally a manga, so a Japanese comic book series that got turned into an anime in the 90s. And then there was a live action series. There's a whole bunch of musicals. And then again, it got rebooted as an anime series in 2014. And this time it follows the comic exactly. Whereas the original 90s, I don't know what they were doing. They went all over the place. So at the time, I was really into podcasts. I was really into like, how did this get made?
So great.
And I love Janet Varney's podcast, The JV Club, because I love Legend of Korra. And so I just adore her. But anyway, so I was like, well, and especially how did this get made? Like taking sort of a comedic approach to material for entertainment. In their case, it was movies. But for me, it was like, okay, there's not really a Sailor Moon podcast that's like fulfilling my needs as a fan, because these people that are critiquing it are like doing it in a really bummer way. Whereas like, how did this get made? Like they critique it, but it's fun.
Yeah.
Like they hate on it, but it's a really good time.
They take bad movies and they talk about like, really, how did this, like who greenlighted this
who
movie?
thought this was a good idea? Exactly. And yeah, so we basically decided, I sort of decided like, okay, with Sailor Moon, there wasn't a podcast that was like comparing the new series to all of the old versions and all the different ways it had been done. And so I had my two friends who had been doing like a short-lived sort of like YouTube vlog series with, and we kind of realized that our long-form discussion was the most interesting thing. And at the time, you know, it's hard to get people on YouTube to watch something that's more than like 3 minutes long.
Oh, yeah.
Now there's much more of a trend for the like long form.
The hour long. Yeah.
But you know, during that time in particular, it was like we weren't anybody, so nobody was going to watch. I think now I could do an hour-long YouTube show and there would be people that would watch it. But, you know, at the time, I was struggling to get our videos under 10 minutes.
Oh, yeah.
And so I was like, well, why don't we just do a podcast? And instead of floundering around to be like, what do we want to talk about this week? Because we were just talking about like various nerdy topics, trying to give it like a female perspective.
Yeah.
I was like, there's so much Sailor Moon content. Why don't we just do a Sailor Moon podcast? And so we're like, cool. So we just kind of started doing that, specifically taking episodes of Crystal and comparing them to all the previous versions. And then once, you know, Crystal was on a hiatus, we just started delving into the really weird Sailor Moon stuff, like the musicals and all the bizarre filler episodes of the 90s anime. And so there's so much content to cover. And people seem to really get a kick out of it.
When you first started, was there like a built-in audience for it?
No.
Were you getting like literally like 50 views or like?
I mean, we only do audio for it.
But like the YouTube one you were talking about, like the 10
our
10
YouTube one.
minute
Yeah, I mean, our first video did pretty well. We got probably like, I think in the end we got like 600 or something, which was cool because we didn't have any built-in audience at all. But then it was like, you know, most of our stuff was getting like 150, but our Sailor Moon stuff was getting in the low thousands.
Oh, wow.
So we're like, okay, maybe there is some merit in this. And so now we have our Sailor Moon podcast, and we definitely have it's a quality following. It's not huge, but you know, that's
the passionate.
Yeah,
fans
it's a few thousand people that listen
yeah.
regularly every week, and they're really genuinely cool people.
Is this a dumb question? Do they produce that in America?
Mm-mm. No, I mean, there is a dubbed version of it that Viz Media puts out. So I've become friends because of the podcast, honestly, with a lot of the people that work on the English language, the current English language version.
Would they ever ask you to do like a voice on it?
I mean, I would have to audition or something. You know what I mean? It's like, it's a weird little world
it's like
of anime voiceover. Yeah, it's kind of like, I feel like I need to just like ask a friend that works on it and be like, yo, let me audition for one of those Starlights, because the Starlights are weird, man. Like they're men who transform into women, but you got to have one voice actor for all of them. And like, I got a weird low voice, so like I'd be great.
Would you just do like your regular voice, or would you
No, I would put on a character voice for. I have a commercial demo reel, and
really?
You know, voiceover is something that I want to get into, but it's one of those things where I'm in this position right now where it's like, I have all of the components that I need to be like really marketable, but I just keep booking work. So it's a good problem to have, but it's like at the same time, I kind of need to like dedicate some time to putting all that stuff together in one place and making a website so that I am marketable in order to like move on to the next step.
Yeah. Do you have your own website?
I don't.
Oh, that's what you need to do. And
Yeah,
just be like, okay,
exactly.
this is where I can put my reel and do
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
Why aren't you doing that? You're the hard worker that gets everything
well,
done.
because I don't have time.
Well,
I really don't.
That's what you need to check off on your list.
I know,
That's like
I know
that-
it is, but I legitimately, like, as I say, like, I just don't have time between working basically full time at Universal and then also doing all of the other gigs that I do. It's just like I don't have like a day. I never have like a day to just, and when I have a day to myself, like I just need to sleep and do laundry. Like I'm still a person. Yeah.
How are you not just like perpetually tired?
I am. I'm literally tired all the time.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Like it doesn't come off that way at all though.
Thanks. I drink a lot of coffee.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
It comes off like you're just like ready to go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, today I am because I was really sick this weekend, so I slept all weekend.
Didn't you have to like binge watch a show or something?
Well, I mean, I was watching TV, but you know.
But you slept.
But I was in bed, watching TV, and when I was not watching TV, I was sleeping.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
What's the voice that you would do for that character?
For like the Starlights. Well, there's 3 of them.
But yeah, you said it's the same guy for like all of them.
No. It's no. I'm saying that they are men who transform into women. So like you have to have somebody that has that sort of like has a nice sort of texture to their voice that can convincingly be both like an androgynous dude and a lady.
You wouldn't like want to try that?
I would.
I
feel like I would need like a line to read or something.
Oh, okay.
But
come on, you know like a bunch of Sailor Moon.
Yeah, I do. I know. I don't know. I feel like of all of them, I want to say, I mean, Fighter is like the one to play. There's like Sailor Star Maker, Sailor Star Fighter, and Sailor Star Healer. I think Sailor Star Healer is the one that has the attack Gentle Uterus. Which I'm sure sounds really cool in Japanese. That's the problem too with a lot of the attacks is like they sound really cool in Japanese, like Tuxedo La Smoking Bomber, because like they have extra syllables in there. Yeah. So it's like Tuxedo La Smoking Bomber. Way cooler in Japanese than Tuxedo La Smoking Bomber. Doesn't sound as cool in English.
Or Great Uterus.
Oh yeah. Gentle Uterus. What? I would sort of like to play that part just because that's hilarious to say.
Yeah, that can be on your resume.
Exactly.
Like I was the uterus.
Yeah, I would definitely put that on my voiceover demo reel.
Well, I think you got to go soon.
I do. Yeah, I got to go talk about Sailor Moon.
Oh, great.
That's like my life.
That's like everything.
Yeah.
Do you have anything else you want to say or before you go?
When is this podcast gonna go
This
up?
will be next Tuesday.
Next Tuesday.
Yeah.
Okay, so watch our daily TV talk. March or May 1st through the 5th. We have TV talk every single day, streaming 8:00 a.m. Pacific time. Please watch. If you can't watch live, watch after the fact. If we get good numbers, then it'll be indefinitely daily, and I will be one step closer to not having to have a day job. Also, I'm doing a really, really fun show on this great Twitch channel called Hyper RPG. It's a wonderful community of people, and they're all about, diversity and just having like kind, quality fans. They do not tolerate any trolls or bullshit. And it's just such a wonderful place to be. And I do a show for them on Friday nights at 9:00 p.m. It is called Pencils and Parsecs. It is a Star Wars RPG. So I play a character named Kalara Faye. She is, her parents were new Mandalorians. So if you know anything about Clone Wars, during a good period of the Clone Wars, Mandalore was run by the new Mandalorians, who are like pacifists, like true neutral, like don't get involved in conflict kind of people. So I'm really good with words. I'm very charismatic, but I'm not so much a fighter. So it's a really fun, interesting way to play the game.
All right, thank you so much for doing this.
Yeah,
this
absolutely.
Is awesome.
Thanks for having me.
Your Twitter?
It is Emma Fyffe, my name, EMMAFYFFE. That is all F's as in Fred, no S's as in snake. They tend to sound the same on the phone or when you record them into a microphone and transmit them into somebody's ears.
Mm-hmm. Are you going to be on the Schmoedown soon again? We haven't seen you in like a couple weeks.
I know. Yeah. Come on, Mark Ellis. What's the deal? I should be. I'll be back soon, I'm sure.
All right. Well, thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Let's get out of here.
All right.